This is Rudkowski of WeAreChange.org here in Acapulco, Mexico, of course, home of the Anarchast and Anarchapulco. Here, of course, with Jeff Berwick, and there's been so many amazing, incredible developments, exciting news with Bitcoin happening, bad news happening with Bitcoin, whether it's with Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan and Chase, whether it's the latest news that just developed in China, whether it's the fears and concerns of many over global currency, and we're going to go over all the important developments, of course, with Jeff, who's pretty much a leading expert in kind of the Bitcoin community. He's been on Fox News when anchors were telling you it's a scam, get out, and you've been telling people, no, buy. You've been telling people to buy at 35, and you really, even with this latest China announcement, with China deciding to not only block ICOs, but block exchanges, get information from their users' bank accounts in order to tax them, you called that days before anyone else did. And I just want to talk to you. What do you think of these latest developments, especially with this big price influx that happened with Bitcoin, almost $1,000 going up and down within just 48 hours?
For Bitcoin, it's still a fairly small market. It's a $60 billion market cap, which, if you look at the total value of all gold that's ever been mined, that's about 7 trillion. So that's, what is that, 100 times more or 1,000 times more? I went to public school, so I can't do the math in my head, but I think it's 100 times more. So Bitcoin is 1/100th the size of the gold market. So you're going to see, it only started in 2009, so we're just a few years into it. Really, most people didn't even know about it until 2015, so we're just a few years into it. So you're going to see a lot of fluctuations, a lot of volatility. And of course, about 1 year ago today, Bitcoin was $600, and it hit over $5,000 just a few weeks ago, and spiked quite high after the fork, which was on August 1st. It doubled in price since then. So for it to pull back to around 3,000, which it did, and I said it was going to, and then to have a bounce back now, and now it's back up above 4,000 again, at the moment anyway, is very normal. This is just normal fluctuations in a currency, a nascent currency that's just evolving.
Yeah, to me, Bitcoin is a very fascinating new kind of internet tool. It's like the new kind of internet 2.0, and really, if it wasn't for the Bitcoin community and the Bitcoin donations, this independent media outlet probably wouldn't exist, since there was massive demonetizations happening to us by Google and YouTube, and the community came and supported us. And there's also a lot of complex language here, so I hope we could also talk in simpler terms to make people understand kind of the bigger things that are happening here. But there's also a lot of news of Google and Apple setting up API blockchain kind of technologies within their own kind of softwares and Chrome systems and online systems that they have. A lot of the community seems to be either Wall Street or anti-Wall Street. So there's a very good mix of a lot of different people in this community. A lot of people also have doubts, saying that this could be the kind of global currency. This could be the banker community, since Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan Chase are working towards integrating blockchain technology. How do you play the field, and what are some of your concerns when it comes to the bigger kind of bankers, the bigger kind of corporations putting their hand on Bitcoin, which was usually more diversified?
Actually, I have no concerns whatsoever. They can't do anything to take control of Bitcoin. They can't stop it. They can't censor it. No government can do that. Bitcoin doesn't exist anywhere. It's the honey badger of money. China can say, oh, it's illegal, and Bitcoin don't care. It's just going to keep going. So I don't have any major concerns about any of those groups, Google or any of them. In fact, I have no major problem with a lot of companies who want to track me personally. I don't have a major problem if what they're doing is trying to find out what I like to buy and all that kind of stuff. It's like, great, then I'll get better ads. The big problem is when those companies like Google and Facebook are really working with the government, with the CIA and the NSA, to track you so that they can tax you and extort you and put you into cages, which is all what government does. That's where I've got a big problem. We got to get rid of governments and central banks off this earth, and I actually think Bitcoin is one way that we can do it. And a lot of people out there, as you pointed out, might say, oh, what if the globalists want this to come out as the currency? They absolutely do not, and that's because the big benefits they get off of central banking is they control the currency, they can give it to any of their friends they want. They can also inflate it as much as they want. And that's how most governments today actually still exist, unfortunately, and how they can have all these wars is because they can inflate the currency. It's an extra tax on people. But you can't do that with Bitcoin. They can't control it, and they can't just give it out to their friends unless they already had bought it, and they can't inflate it. So there's no chance, there's a 0% chance the globalists want Bitcoin to succeed. And you can just look at everything that's going on in the world today, and you can kind of see that happening. Some of them, like for example, it's funny because you brought up Jamie Dimon, I call him, of JP Morgan. He came out and said Bitcoin's a fraud. 3 days later, it was shown that JP Morgan was buying up a ton of Bitcoin in the marketplace just 3 days later. So he was saying that to get the Bitcoin price down. I think they're buying it because they're realizing they can't stop it. It's going to be huge. It's going to go up in value tremendously. And they're trying to figure out how they can take advantage of it or how they can control it. But the real deal is they can't.
One of the worries I've seen is that just like the internet when it first came out, it was decentralized and platforms like Google opened up to anyone and everyone. And if you got the most amount of views, you were on their #1 trending list. And now they changed all of that. And now they're modifying it, controlling it, kicking out anyone who goes against the status quo. Is there a possibility of that happening with Bitcoin, where at first it's like, wow, this is a great, open, beautiful community, and then bam, corporations, banks step in, and then they start kicking everyone out who doesn't fit their status quo line?
Really, there isn't. As long as Bitcoin continues the way it has been, you could have a minor takeover of Bitcoin, but what would happen in that situation is if all the central banks got together and all the governments, they said, okay, we need to take over Bitcoin. And they said, okay, let's print up like $10 trillion of fiat useless garbage currency that they always print up, and let's buy every Bitcoin. Well, all they'd do is they'd rise Bitcoin up to like $1 million of Bitcoin. I'd be incredibly wealthy overnight, and so many other people would. And then we'd just say, okay, let's not use Bitcoin anymore because it's controlled by somebody. Let's use one of the thousands of other cryptocurrencies, Monero, which you can't even track. This is the end game. They don't realize it. Well, they realize if they listen to me, but this is the end game. We're going to take down governments and central banks with cryptocurrencies, and there's nothing they can do about it. It's beautiful.
Yeah, the platform has really opened up, and there just seems so many altcoins. It seems like so many ICOs right now. What is kind of your deterrent to see which one is good and which one is bad? Because people always make the argument that Bitcoin is good because it took a lot of effort to make a Bitcoin. People are saying Ethereum is good because of the contract-based kind of solutions that it offers. People are saying Steemit is good because it has a good community, but also that it's also just like a token coin and that it's kind of like monopoly money. How do you see these coins, and how do you determine which one is good or bad?
Yeah, there's literally thousands out now. I get contacted by some every like 10 a day right now. There's really, just like anything, I was around when the internet started, and even when automobiles first came out, I think there was like 1,000 car companies at the beginning, then it got down to like 3, and now half of them are owned by the government, and that sort of thing. So that's what happens in every sort of nascent industry. Even the internet, it was thousands of companies. It all got down to a few again, Google and Facebook and all that kind of stuff. We're going to see that with the cryptocurrencies. The thing with cryptocurrencies is it has much more value and much more things that currencies can do than just being a currency itself. So you brought up Steem. That's actually a social media network that's sort of backed by a cryptocurrency token, as you pointed out. There's all kinds of developments coming out of decentralized platforms that are going to be built on things like Ethereum, or maybe the new one by Dan Larimer, EOS, that is basically going to re-establish what the internet is. So we're going to actually decentralize the internet again now that they're trying to centralize it, all through things like cryptocurrencies. So it's absolutely fantastic. For people who haven't been paying attention, you absolutely have to pay attention. It's like being around when the internet in 1994 or 1995, it's happening all over again. And I actually was there for the beginning of the internet, so I'm seeing it all happening again. There's so many currencies, and really it just comes down to, what is the what are they trying to develop technologically? Is it viable? Who's trying to develop it? It always comes down to people as well. Do they have a track record and things like that? And just things like that. Anything you'd look at with a regular business is how you have to look at every cryptocurrency. But like I said, there's thousands out there, so you can't look at them all by any means, but definitely people should be checking them out because they're changing the world, and they're going to change the world. And like I said, there's nothing these guys can do to stop it, and it's so fun to watch them just scurry around like cockroaches trying to figure out what they're going to do, and there's not much they can do.
I would say there's a lot more risk and a lot more reward when it comes to Bitcoin, as we just seen within the last 48 hours with the price fluctuation of around $1,000. So it is fascinating that this kind of new internet 2.0 is kind of developing online and encryption. There's also worries, though, and this is what I wanted to talk to you about also as well, because I'm very curious about kind of AI breaking encryption with Amazon and Google and Facebook working on artificial intelligence far superior than human intelligence. Do you see that as a possible threat in the future?
Not as much as a lot of people do. As one example, still when you go online today and you go to a website and it says, click here to say you're not a robot, or pick out a street sign from this photo, it's like, if AI hasn't even developed to the point where it can it can like defeat that, like I think it's overblown. I think these guys do it on purpose. I think people like Elon Musk, who's a giant corporate whore, gets all his money from the government, and most of the stuff he does is just total BS. These guys say all this stuff to scare us. They want us to believe that, yeah, they are in control of everything, they own everything, and their intelligence, because they control everything, they can just watch everything we do. That's what they want, but they really can't. They just don't have that kind of computing power. So I'm not that worried about AI or the robots killing us. We're not even close to that right now. We don't, I've seen those sex robots. I'm pretty sure I'm going to stick with real girls for quite a while. But over time, these things do develop, and we'll see what happens. And what we'll see, who knows it? Like, these things get very exponential when you start to have technological developments. Yeah, we could see 10 or 20 years from now, like something like we would never even imagine. That is totally possible, sure. But I don't worry about it too much. At the end of the day, if you got some green trees, you got some good fruit, you got a cute girl or girlfriend or wife, that's basically all you need. So, people worry too much, and, the only problems in the world today that are real serious problems are governments and central banks, and we're getting rid of them just by developing them on this technology.
And I would add the corporatocracy that is working with the big governments in order to set up a control grid system on you. I've seen the AI stuff. It's very concerning for me, but I agree with you on the major point. Fear is never the answer, and I think we both kind of learned that throughout our paths and lives. Throughout, we've been knowing each other for years, and it's very easy to kind of get overwhelmed by a lot of the issues, by a lot of the problems, but really taking a deep breath and just relaxing and understanding that you have the most important power of all, and that's the power of your reaction and happiness and chihuahuas and dogs. Any last final words, Jeff, about where people could find you or anything else you want to add?
Yeah, you can find me at dollarvigilante.com. As you know, I'm on YouTube almost every day with a video. Just check out the Dollar Vigilante. If you want to find out more about cryptocurrencies, you really don't know much about them, I've done a free 4-video webinar that you can get access to for free, as I mentioned, dollarvigilante.com/bank. And at the very end of it, if you want and you accept our offer, I'll actually send you your first $50 in Bitcoin directly from me. So you can check that out.
Wow. Thank you, Jeff. Really appreciate all the amazing work you've been doing for a number of years now. Thank you, the amazing, incredible audience that's been subscribing and staying tuned. If you found this video useful, share it with your friends and family members. Subscribe. Stay tuned for more real information on the ground here on youtube.com/WeAreChange.